Hi guys, I'm Emily Olman and I'm the CEO of Hopscotch Interactive. And I'm super excited to share with you today my talk on 3D and 360 for real estate, increase revenue and future-proof your business. But before I do that, I just wanted to say thank you again so much to the PFRE Conference organizers for inviting me to give this talk. I'm super excited to learn from everyone there and from all of you, and also to be able to share a little bit about what I've picked up along the way. So to kick things off, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction about us. So Hopscotch Interactive is a real estate marketing agency. We're a boutique agency that was founded in the San Francisco Bay Area in the East Bay in 2015. We are doing real estate photography for residential. We're doing virtual tours and XR, and we do about half and half residential and commercial work. We have quite a diverse set of clients, so that's great because it keeps us learning and improving what we're doing. Because we've been interested in XR, and actually some of the folks on the team I met in the XR industry, you'll also see us at places like Augmented World Expo or at the Commercial Real Estate Professionals Network. I'm a Zillow Elite photographer. I also received a nomination for a Maddie Award in 2017. So I've been doing this a long time. We do everything from our aerial photography and videography to Matterport to Zillow, as I mentioned. And our work has been seen in the New York Times, in Dwell, in Marin Living, and we also do everything from Eichlers to commercial real estate. So when we're not doing that, the team is training or working out in the field, or we're making videos to share our knowledge with the community, or we're attending events, supporting and evangelizing for XR for real estate. So that's really what we do, and what very much excites me. So I want to get started by talking about 360 photography. So 360 photography, in a nutshell, is a equirectangular image. So what is that? That's an image that is, has an aspect ratio of 2:1, and so it's twice as long as it is tall, but the image has also been stitched in such a way before being exported that when it's put back together in a sphere, that image will actually give you a full spherical view, a panoramic view of whatever your subject is. It's 360, so it's also interesting to discuss what is a subject when the viewer can look all around. These days, because stitching by hand and creating panoramas the old-fashioned way, by using something like a Nodal Ninja and stitching together those images in apps or in software programs like PT GUI, was time-consuming and cumbersome. A lot of folks have really moved over into all-in-one cameras. Those cameras, which is also great, are conveniently compatible with a number of the top virtual tour programs and platforms out there. And if you have a 360 all-in-one, you can then put that content onto Facebook and it will be detected as a 360 image, which will make whatever you're creating that much more immersive. So let's talk about cameras. All-in-one cameras, for example, include the Ricoh Theta Z1, and that one's about $1,000. The Insta360 One X2, which is, about half as much, or the Insta360 One R. I love the Insta360 One R for its cool factor of having the ability for you to swap out lenses. So you can swap out a ultra wide angle lens for the spherical lens, and that spherical lens is on both sides. And so that's just a really cool thing that it can do. But generally speaking, the thing that you're going to want to look at is compatibility of those cameras with potentially the tour platforms that you will be using to add 3D or 360 to your offerings. The Z1 for me is where it's at, and that's just because the sensor is so much larger, the image quality is much better, and it's compatible with pretty much every tour platform that I use, and so that includes Matterport, iGuide, Pivo Tour, and also Zillow 3D, which is available just for US folks. So if you are overseas and the Zillow 3D is not available in your area, it's still a great camera. The 1X2 is certainly not as compatible with the tour platforms. However, if you want to experiment with 360 video, the 1X2 is actually perhaps a better camera because it has better stabilization if you're walking around with a selfie stick. And you're taking videos. So for us, we're usually static with a monopod and we're not moving. So that's why the Z1 is really great. And then also nowadays, we're also using mobile for 360 as well. So those tour platforms, that you might be using, here are some of the things to keep in mind. Matterport is 3D. It also is 360. You can add annotations and deep links. Most of these platforms now also offer some sort of 3D or some sort of floor plan offering. Zillow is paused right now because they kind of got a huge backlog of these orders for floor plans because they were free. And so they'll be rolling that back out slowly, as they get up to speed with their workflow. And however, the big clincher and the things that people always are concerned about is the cost of hosting and the ongoing cost of hosting. Well, certainly if you are just going to be doing a 360 tour and it's for a residential property and you're only going to use it for a short time, then maybe that's not as big of a concern. But maybe you're going to use like SeekBeak and use 360 content and create a tour that's going to be on a website for a very long time, and you're going to spend hours editing that and annotating it. And so hosting is, a consideration. Is it free? Well, yes and no. I mean, you're still going to have to pay for the software. The one exception to that right now is like, Pivo Tour, which you just buy the device and then that's it. You don't have to pay for any more hosting, and you can upload unlimited tours. But the place where these things all change and veer off is when we're talking about, does this tour or does this use of 360 also generate 3D data? So OBJ or CAD, which can be imported into architectural software like a DWG file or a DXF file. And the point cloud, which we'll get into in a little bit, but certainly that is a big question, is do you need 360 or do you need more than that? And finally, I think syndication is the other thing when you're looking at exploring which platform to use. You're going to be needing to figure out if you're going to benefit from the ability for that tour platform to push and syndicate your content further out into the marketplace. Now, the MLS, anything published to the MLS usually gets picked up within a matter of 15 minutes by many of the top, marketplaces. But the thing is that, for example, Zillow 3D, and this is again for the US folks, Zillow 3D is really cool because they actually give a boost on the system for that tour for the first 7 days. And they push that tour to Zillow and Trulia, which is awesome. And you won't get that if you're not working with a tour system that is recognized. Like, it needs to be something that is not even masked or has some sort of, redirect in the URL because you need it to see that it's a Zillow tour. And same goes for Matterport. So if you skin it, if you change it and try to white label it, it's not going to work. You're going to need to put it in there as Matterport because Matterport has deals and agreements with Redfin and with Zillow and with all these different platforms to then identify the content as 360 and 3D when somebody is searching for a home. And those icons that show up on the map when you're in search are really powerful marketing tools for having your property, your client's property, stand out. So let's talk about some tips. These are just best practices, things that I think are really important for you if you are learning 360 photography or using it for the first time. These are basic beginner's tips, but I want to just tell you that it would be helpful if somebody told me this in the beginning. And number one is navigation. So number one, make sure that you maintain a really good line of sight between your first shot and your second shot. So that means that I want to see where I came from and I want to see where I'm going. And so camera placement matters. I want to know that I can get from point A to point B and not lose that thread of where I am in the room or where I am in the property. That's the whole point of the virtual tour, is to give somebody context for the property and to make them have more of a spatial awareness of how the rooms are laid out. And so, for example, if you place that camera in the center of the room, you may be too far away to see what's in the hall. Whereas if you place that camera right in the entrance to the room, you can sort of have a better view into the hallway. You might then also place a 360 image or a scan right on the outside of that door. But generally speaking, that's going to then, when you enter that room, open somebody up to see the subject better. It's like why we stand in the corner when we're taking a photograph of a bedroom or of a living room, is because, you get that sense of like, this is a great space. What a cool space. I can see all of it. I can my brain can understand it better. So I think that those are the things, so I would say, as much as possible, like, make sure if you take a center of the room shot that it's not your only shot, and make sure that you are always thinking about navigation and maintaining that line of sight. So let's pop back out here to where we came from, and we are going to go into our next section, which is 3D photography. So what is 3D photography? Well, the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of folks is Matterport. And so I am going to go into Matterport a bit today and talk about what is this company, what is it that they do, and are they the only ones? Do I have other options? And how do I sound like I know what I'm talking about when I am selling somebody on the difference between 360 and 3D? So the difference between 360 and 3D, and you'll remember this from, math probably, is that it is not just two dimensions, right? It's not just that x-axis or the y-axis, but we're adding the third dimension with it, which is that z-axis. That's the depth. That's what makes a square turn into a cube. It's the thing that is giving us dimension and volume. So let's look at this and sort of understand what that means. So again, like I said, three-dimensional media, X, Y, Z, and volumetric, meaning that it will enable me to, for example, take a measurement and visualize that data that I created in a 3D space. And it's phenomenally incredible to think about what this technology is really doing. So I mentioned point cloud before, but what is a point cloud? Well, a point cloud is what is generated when the sensors in that, maybe it's a LiDAR scanner or maybe it's an infrared scanner, but this is light that is invisible to the naked eye, but light that is going to be coming out of that device And then the time that it takes, or the time of flight, for it to hit an object and to then be bounced back into the sensor, is that time of flight is how it is actually calculating and computationally deriving a 3D or a point cloud, and in fact a colored point cloud when it comes to Matterport. And so that colored point cloud data is then what is being used to basically instantaneously, or after a very small amount of time of processing, create that floor plan, or that map view, that 3D view coming to life on your device, a tablet or an iPad that you're using to scan. And so what it is doing is it's really creating this, point cloud, which will then be derived into many vertices to create a 3D mesh. And that 3D mesh is really the fundamental and foundational, way that computers are seeing objects and then recreating them for us on screens. And that can be used for so many things, but really we're talking about just 3D representation, 3D display. So let's talk a little bit about Matterport, because this is the company that comes up all the time, and I have a lot of experience with Matterport. I have been using Matterport in my business since 2015. So as you can see, Matterport has actually been around a very long time, but they started out as a virtual tour company, meaning that they launched their original Pro1 camera in 2014 and slowly rolled out features like you couldn't even go to multiple floors until sometime in early 2015. But the thing that really got me excited about it was that in late 2015, when Oculus paired up with Samsung and they released the Gear VR, that meant that any Matterport space could be ported into VR and could be viewable. So it was really an all-in-one camera viewing virtual reality system. And that got me so excited because I saw all of the potential for that and what it could do for marketing and for real estate marketing. And just generally speaking, for transporting people to new places and experiences. So Matterport existed as a virtual tour company for a long time, putting together partnerships with people like Leica or companies like Leica so that they could overcome challenges such as scanning large open spaces or large spaces. The BLK is a much more accurate and robust scanning device. It also costs a lot more like I think $18,000 or $19,000. And then, Matterport did a really interesting thing. They opened up their SDK, which meant that they sort of were willing to have other people develop software on their platform, and therefore have third-party companies start to think up solutions that they may not be able to actually develop in-house. All spaces were eventually enabled for virtual reality, and now you see the goggles on every single space. But in the past, we used to spend, for example, like $500 to get a space converted into VR. And now that's just something that is possible on every single tour. And the thing that changed, though, the big thing that changed was that in early 2020, in January 2020, Matterport rebranded itself with a new logo and a new spin on what they do, which is that they said that they were now a digital twin company. So digital twin is mega jargon. It gets thrown around a lot. And one of the things that digital twin is it is a way for people to collaborate, about the information of in a space. And so you'll see that, for example, in 2021, Matterport launched this notes collaboration, which allows people who are, on a team or working together. They can use annotations to mark up scenes and share information and notes back and forth. It also means that 3D point cloud, or that point cloud data can be exported and used in construction, or to visualize building systems and IoT. So when Matterport has said that it is going from being, a virtual tour company to a digital twin company, one of the things that's really interesting is that, that might mean that Matterport is a bit of overkill for a residential real estate property. And I would actually agree that many times that it is, because the power behind the system can do so much more, but we barely scratch the surface with most of our clients that we're, offering this to, and that we're, making this content for. So, yes, and so things are changing though, and it's 2021, and this technology is now not just limited to this proprietary system that was created by some, geniuses in, interactive and sort of computer vision many, many years ago. But now the price has come down, and we see things like LiDAR being accessible in the latest iOS devices. So since 2020, iPads have LiDAR, and iPhones as well. There are also time of flight sensors on Android devices again. So that means that 3D is becoming more ubiquitous. It means that competition doesn't have to go through super expensive development cycles in order to get 3D content as an offering for real estate tours. So you're going to see new competitors like Pivo Tour, Astroom, ImmoViewer, which ImmoViewer is not new, and they've been around a long time, and they've got really cool stuff. But I'll just leave it as, the thing that we're talking about here is this dollhouse, right? And the dollhouse is synonymous with Matterport and 3D, or it was for a while until now. And so I did a poll because I wanted to understand, anecdotally, my clients have been telling me for a while, and maybe it was because of the pandemic that they were, maybe they just had a little bit of fatigue with using Matterport tours, or it made them dizzy, or, they just didn't quite get the need for it. So I just did a tour. We have had 40 respondents so far. You can see that I asked about, is the dollhouse valuable, and or is it not valuable, or is it neutral? And we got an interesting range of responses, but about almost 55, so let's call it 60%, said yeah, it's still valuable. 6% said it's neutral, so they kind of are not really weighing in on this topic. And what is this? Almost 40% said not valuable. So I think it's really interesting that perceptions are changing, and folks are realizing that maybe they don't need a Matterport tour for everything. And in fact, maybe a video or maybe a Zillow tour is going to be more cost effective and to help them get what they need without really going over budget on their marketing for their property. So that is something to absolutely keep in mind when you are talking to your clients about, do you need Matterport? Do you need us to use a Pro2 camera? Because we're actually, that's a lot. There's a lot going on there that they may not be thinking about. So the big thing, the next thing to talk about is spatial, right? Where is this all heading? I said in the beginning, I was going to show you some ways to increase revenue. I would say certainly adding more services that you can offer and that you can add on to your trips, whether that's, a virtual tour or floor plans or anything else that you can cross-sell to your client, is going to increase the value of that trip for you. So that's one data point that, if you can double or triple the revenue just on that single trip, it's already going to make an investment in this technology worth it. And it's going to be worth the investment in you learning how to use it. Now, the next evolution of this is spatial. And spatial is where we take the 3D content, or we take the LiDAR, and we are using that to create new experiences that sort of evolve out of the 3D. These are location-aware experiences. And a location-aware experience would be, I wave my device around, my device recognizes where it is, and then because it knows where I am, it will see the content that I've placed there or someone else has placed there, and that it is now a way for me to communicate about a property, about a specific location in the world. And I really think that that is what, certainly it may not be the vision of the metaverse for everyone, but, folks in the industry are kind of talking about the metaverse as sort of the M word anyway, because the metaverse is expansive and large, and yes, it is everything from digital twins to virtual beings. It is everything from NFTs to things that only exist online and digitally, and social media and avatars, and you name it. But the metaverse really fundamentally for me is a way for us to be able to, augment a place with annotations or with information that are specific to that location. So that could be something in a headset, but it could also be something that you see in real life where, for example, the company that created Pokemon Go, Niantic, is really building an OS, a world operating system, and a map that's going to enable them to place content anywhere. And that would maybe be content that you could find by yourself or you and a friend could find together. So it is really exciting stuff. And so I'm going to sort of talk to you about what this real estate photography and spatial nexus is. So as I mentioned before, location and localization enables location-aware experiences on mobile. My phone's going to know where I am, and then the content that I have programmed for it to pop up will be there, or that others have left for me. It is infinite storytelling potential, and there are certainly new revenue streams with this kind of specialty media. And I don't think that we are far off from seeing many more 3D displays, tablets, phones, and wearables, glasses, that will also show us this content. Ray-Ban has new sort of wearables out. Apple doesn't have theirs out yet, but they will come. And so there will be a moment where all of a sudden, we've been talking about this for a very long time, but that content will be something that you, as a real estate photographer who has already been working in spatial, will be able to shepherd your clients in and to help them understand. So let's take a look at the Loompad, for example. So made by a company named Leia, and it uses light field technology. So that is a 3D display that this Loompad uses. And well, what is light field technology? Light field is more or less a way for you to ditch the glasses, the 3D glasses, and for the light in that device to be sort of, not baked in, but moving around with the object so that it appears to be 3D. It is still on a flat screen, but the content and the imagery, you can interact with it, and it is absolutely looking 3D. And, they won a digital imaging photography. They were an honoree at CES. They also were honored for computer hardware and components. So this is for sure like the future of smartphones, tablets, and TVs, I think is going to be certainly more 3D and three-dimensional. So let's talk about innovation. So I want to talk about what are some practical examples of where this is all heading. I'm calling it innovation at work. So some of the things that we are doing and what we are excited about our mobile augmented reality. We've also used mobile QR, so QR tours at properties. And I also see signage evolving. So I'll probably share a little bit more about that in the coming year. But I feel like, there's definitely a convergence of all of these technologies for real estate marketing. So I'm going to share with you a beta that we have launched with a client in the San Francisco East Bay. And this beta is using mobile augmented reality to basically storytell about a property. So let's take a look at this. Start. Yeah, okay, so please film around to initialize tracking. Initialization successful! Yay! And look, you can already see these AR tags coming in. So welcome to 1614 Julian. Look, walk this way. Okay, I'm gonna walk this way. Welcome to the grand entrance. The grand entrance, double doors at 1614 Julian. Welcome you to the foyer. Come on in. Bingo. It's awesome because it feels like the realtor is here with me, but they're not here. So I'm sort of connecting with what they want to tell me, the story they want to tell me about this property, maybe sharing with me some anecdotes or kind of just even their voice is bringing life into the space, and it makes me feel like I'm more connected to it. And so, yeah, look at this big open concept. Like, I'm already starting to sort of squirrel away little sound bites about the property that then I can use to remember this one, and so that it sticks out for me. So it's all about, I think, creating a connection between the description, the emotion, and the place. And so the technology is supporting us as we're walking through this property. So what else do we have? Okay, balcony. I mean, they're like these little, it's like finding Easter eggs in a video game, but in the real world. And this is so unique, and this is so custom to this property. You can only use this experience when you're here. You can't even initialize it anywhere else. You can't start it anywhere else. So this is just all about 1614. This is all about being at this property and then seeing exactly what's going on here. And, for example, here we've embedded, this video showing us the view and pushing in to the Golden Gate Bridge, which is the view just on the other side of this house. So the content doesn't have to be limited to text. It can also be something with music, it can be something with video, and that will give you the chance to find new ways to repurpose the content that you already made for this property. So I want to give a huge thanks, of course, to Herman Chan at Golden Gate Sotheby's International Realty for working with me on this project and for, looking at how we can do innovative and amazing new things. 1614 Julian has been a great project. We've done mobile AR, we're doing mobile QR. So I'm just really thrilled to be able to have, the ability to work with clients that are excited about the next generation of content. And, we're still learning, we're still researching, and it is definitely early, but it's never too early to start to try to, get your feet wet, get started with 360 or get started with 3D with Matterport, because the sooner you jump in, I feel like the sooner you're going to open up these new revenue streams for yourself, and the sooner you're going to be able to be a guide for your clients around what is possible. Sometimes your clients will call you and you have a hard time articulating why they should do something. But if you can explain it to them and tell them really a good reason why they should do one thing versus the other and not just price, I think that really leads to a high level of trust and a belief in your skill and ability to consult for them. So I do just want to wrap up this talk by saying that cross-selling is something that you have to get used to doing, but by adding 3D or 360 photography to your offerings, you're expanding your rate card. You are giving yourself the potential to earn greater revenue per project. And I think that that's the key. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it's like $400 for your photography, and you could charge another $400 for a tour of a really nice place. You're doubling your revenue just by going to that same property and offering more services, because you've already sold them on your photography. Why not sell them on something else? Furthermore, you are diversifying your knowledge. You are expanding your clientele by offering more services, and you're really preparing yourself for a spatial future, so that maybe some of you feel like, I'm just never going to get there because this is so foreign to me. I'm a real estate photographer. That's what I do. But I think that it is important to make sure that you stay ahead of where the curve is going. And most importantly, you learn new skills and have fun. I know that as a real estate photographer, the better you get, the more you can charge, the more respect and esteem you have in the industry. And maybe if you become a better Matterport photographer, you might not have that as much because it doesn't really correlate, right? Like the skill is a little bit different. But I do think that you are going to be able to increase your revenue, and that part alone really does provide value for you and also for your clients, because you don't want them to go somewhere else when they could be getting additional services from you and your company. So, as I mentioned before, I'm thrilled to be here with the PFRE Conference this year. It's exciting to be a part of your community and to learn all about you and to share a little bit of my knowledge on 360, 3D, and spatial for real estate. If you are interested in following what we do, I am regularly posting on our YouTube channel, which is Hopscotch Interactive. I've shared the link here. You can also follow us on Instagram, where we post pretty regularly. And you can also reach out to us the good old-fashioned way by sending us an email and reaching out to us through our website. So thank you so much. I hope you learned something. If you did and you want to just let me know what you thought, I would love to hear from you. And I look forward to connecting with you and hopefully, the rest of the PFRE community as well. So thanks so much, and please be in touch. I look forward to hearing from you soon.